Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley takes place in the main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 11, Covington versus Woodley, and I can't wait for this matchup. Don't get me wrong, Waterson versus Hill was okay. It ended up being an okay fight, but this is a real main event. Covington versus Woodley, I can't wait for this matchup. I've been waiting for this matchup for years. As soon as Colby Covington beat Damian Maia, some people say as soon as he beat RDA, as soon as he beat Damian Maia, I wanted to see him take on Tyron Woodley, and we waited for so long. It was postponed. Covington just went 5 rounds with RDA and he had a nose injury or had to get his sinuses fixed or something like that. Then he moved on and Tyron Woodley took on Darren Till instead. Then Tyron Woodley lost the belt to Kamaru Usman because him and Colby could not come to an agreement on another fight that was supposed to be happening. Then Tyron Woodley lost to Kamaru Usman and that fight was ruined again, and we again did not get to see Woodley versus Covington. Then Covington went out there and got his shot against Kamaru Usman by beating Robbie Lawler. Then Colby lost to Usman, and again we missed out on an opportunity to get Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley. But now, somehow, by some miracle, we found our way to get the fight to happen. Now, is this a bit of a worse situation to have the fight take place? Yes. I really do wish that a belt was on the line because it would be a much bigger spectacle, and I feel like the momentum has been a little bit lost because it's not quite at its peak right now. Both guys have dipped a little bit. Colby lost to Usman. It was a great performance though, but Woodley's lost a lot of stock recently with his last few performances. I think this is 10 rounds in a row that Tyron Woodley has lost in his fights, and that's just not really a good sales pitch, I'll be honest with you guys, but I still love the fight. Tyron Woodley, Colby Covington, but now Colby Covington versus Tyron Woodley because Covington's in a better position than Woodley is in his career right now. Great matchup. Covington needs this win, but Woodley needs this win, okay? Colby needs it. He really does, and that's a shortened version of the word need, okay? He needs this win. He needs it for relevancy. He needs it for his title shot. He needs to be coming off a win for big money fights against potentially Masvidal if he beats Nate Diaz in a rematch, which, come on, let's be real, most likely will happen. We all watch the first fight together. Colby Covington needs this win to have the power in the division, to be himself and to get big money fights that he wants or a title shot that he wants. But Tyron Woodley needs to win this fight for his career. If Tyron Woodley loses to Colby Covington, we're not talking about Woodley versus Usman rematches. We're not talking about Woodley versus Burns rematches. We're not talking about Woodley versus Masvidal or Woodley versus Nick Diaz or Woodley versus Nate Diaz. We're talking about Woodley versus Lawler rematches and maybe Woodley versus the winner of Cerrone versus Price. Like, this is just a different situation for Woodley if he loses this one. So his back is against the cage, no pun intended. That's exactly how he fights every single fight that he has. Tyron Woodley's going to go out there, in my opinion, and lose to Colby Covington. I think it's a very valid prediction, and I'll be honest with you guys, the one reason I'm picking Colby Covington mainly is because I can't think of an argument for why Woodley wins other than one-punch knockout power. It can happen. He can catch him on the chin, dude. Other people have won. I don't think that's a very credible prediction to make. Okay, so I'm going to go with Colby Covington because all of the evidence is in his favour to win this fight. Now, I do understand that Tyron Woodley has power, and he can land on Colby Covington's chin, and sometimes Colby Covington is there to be hit on the feet. But one thing I do know is that the recipe to beat Tyron Woodley is pace, pressure, volume, wrestling offensively. Those 4 things: pace, pressure, volume, offensive wrestling. Every single person who has beaten Tyron Woodley in his entire career has used either all of those 4 things or just 1 or 2 of those 4 things to get the job done against Woodley. We saw it against Kamaru Usman. Pace, volume, pressure, offensive wrestling dominated Woodley for 5 rounds. We saw this against Gilbert Burns. Pace, pressure, volume, well, not so much volume, so we can take away that one, but still, 3 of the 4 things, offensive wrestling against Tyron Woodley. Gilbert Burns, want to mention this, we watched Gilbert Burns go out there and take down Woodley with ease at times and get on top and land crushing elbows. Burns couldn't get down Gunnar Nelson like as much as he could Tyron Woodley. Burns couldn't get down Alexei Kunchenko as much as he could Tyron Woodley. I need that to be said because you really need to understand that. I don't think Tyron Woodley has the same anymore. I don't think it's Tyron Woodley anymore. And his body is changing a little bit. He's now going to be 6 months older or however many months older, so that's not going to help him. Colby Covington's still in his prime and he still seems to be improving every single time he goes out there. You can't say that Woodley looks like he's improving right now, but let's pick back up where we left off, going through Woodley's losses and the reasons why he lost. Rory McDonald, pace, pressure, volume, offensive wrestling. Jake Shields, pace, pressure, volume, offensive grappling. It was a split decision, but it still happened. Woodley loses these kinds of matchups. And Colby Covington is pace, pressure, volume, and offensive wrestling to the maximum. He's the best at all four of them in that division, bar Kamaru Usman, and they're pretty goddamn even, because I thought that it was 3-1 Covington going into that 5th round, but credit to Usman, he got the job done in the 5th. But still, they're pretty much even, Covington and Usman, and Covington's got better wrestling credentials than Kamaru Usman. You're talking about a Pac-10 world champion, or a Pac-10 champion in wrestling. You're talking about a Division 1 All-American wrestler. You're talking about Kamaru Usman, D2 scrub. I think Covington is going to go out there and really melt Woodley for every round until eventually picking up a TKO or a rear naked choke submission in the 3rd or 4th round, because I'll tell you this, Woodley gets to a point in his fights, and I've watched the Burns one again, and I've watched the Usman one again, where he's looking up at the fucking clock. And I used to love watching Woodley fight. It used to be, I liked watching him break down Wonderboy. It was not the most entertaining in the world, don't get me wrong, but I could respect what Woodley was doing. He just doesn't seem to have the lower eyebrows. He doesn't seem to have the lower eyebrows anymore. Okay, he doesn't seem to have the vision, the squinting of the eyes, where you know when you see a bus pull away from a bus stop and you think you can beat that bus to the next bus stop and your eyes narrow and you're willing to take on the challenge. I don't see that look in Woodley's eyes anymore. I see wide eyes. I see looking up at the clock. How much time do I have left not to get finished against this guy? Oh my god. Well, I'll work on a song after this one or something, because I'm just looking up at the clock. Oh, how many minutes have I got left of Burns on top of me? Oh, right, well, Burns is going to hold me against a cage. Well, at least I'm not getting KO'd. It seems like Woodley's last few fights have been not trying to win, but trying not to get finished and embarrassed. And I think that's a bad mindset to have against a guy like Colby Covington, who's going to put the pressure on you start to finish. I just watched Covington versus Lawler again. He gets guys down when he wants them down. He just drags them to the canvas. And I think he's going to do the same to Tyron Woodley, because I'll tell you this, Woodley's body looks different. And I don't want to say USADA. I'm not going to say USADA, in fact, because Woodley was champion under USADA. So I'm definitely not going to say that, although it is an accusation that can be made, judging by the difference in his body. Go back and type in on Google right now, Woodley Strikeforce. Just type in Tyron Woodley Strikeforce on Google Images and look at the first image you see. I'm going to do it along with you right now. Open up another tab. We'll open up another tab. And if you're on a phone, then you're a fucking phone using scrub and you don't get to open up another tab and still listen to the YouTube video, you dumb bitch. Moving on. Tyron Woodley Strikeforce. It's already recommended to me. Don't ask why, okay? What I do in my own time is none of your fucking business, alright? Tyron Woodley in Strikeforce. Look at the image. The first one on there. That's a different human being. That is genuinely a different human being than the human being we see right now. And I'm not going to say USADA. I'm really not, because he became a champion in the UFC. What I am going to say is this. Take away Strikeforce from your Google search and just leave it at Tyron Woodley, and you will see 38 years of age, man. This is not a young man. This is not an old man's. This is a young man's sport. You've got to be in your prime or really Tony Ferguson-ish. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to stick around. And it seems as though we're seeing Woodley fade. 10 rounds in a row. From a guy who people were saying was going to go on to become the greatest welterweight of all time. I never said that, but Joe Rogan was making that argument because Woodley has abs. You know, Joe Rogan loves that shit. He was making the argument that Woodley, if beating Kamaru Usman, would become the greatest welterweight of all time. Absolutely ludicrous, and Joe Rogan's a dumb fucking toe for even suggesting such a thing. But I can't wait for this matchup. I actually can't wait for this matchup. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to be worried because Woodley can land a one punch out of nowhere and ruin my entire prediction. But Covington, it's just a terrible matchup for Woodley, man. It's such a bad matchup after watching Woodley versus Usman and watching Woodley versus Burns. Other than One-punch knockout power, anything can happen. Julian Erosa beat Sean Woodson. Shayna Dobson beat Maria Agapova. Anything can happen. I'm picking Woodley. I hate Covington, so I'm going to make an emotional decision and pick Woodley because of it. I can't do that. I can't sell out my credibility and pick Woodley. There's no argument to make other than one-punch knockout power out of nowhere. Oh, maybe he lands the big punch this time. Well, he hasn't landed it for 10 fucking rounds. So I'm not going to bet that he lands it against Colby Covington, who doesn't commit to any of his shots, pitter-patter shots. If Covington was a guy that really committed to things and overthrew and made a massive, big, telegraphed shot like Darren Till did. Remember Darren Till threw that massive telegraphed lead uppercut and then tried the straight right afterwards, ended up getting clipped. Covington doesn't telegraph anything. It's all off the shoulder, no body weight behind his shots whatsoever. He will break you down over time. He doesn't commit to anything. Fair enough, he's not as defensively sound as some of the other fighters in the division. But then again, no one in MMA is really that defensively sound, because you look at the guy who takes the least damage, I guarantee you he still eats about 40% of the shots his opponent throws at him. Covington's going to go out there and win. I really believe so. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, Tyron Woodley's training with Masvidal. Well, Tyron Woodley's been training with Masvidal for years. Oh, but Woodley's been training with Masvidal. Oh, yeah, well, you know, Woodley was training with Masvidal a decade ago. You know? So I don't think that's really going to make too much difference. I know Masvidal is now going to be telling him some things about Colby Covington, but Covington trained with Woodley. So what is that going to tell him? Like, what is Masvidal going to tell Woodley something that Woodley doesn't know about his own sparring sessions with Colby Covington? I think Covington's going to go out there, ragdoll Woodley for 3 rounds. Not ragdoll him, sit in the clinch, break him down, throw some body shots, throw some leg kicks, throw some switch kicks up higher, make Woodley think about things. As soon as Woodley looks to bulk up and he does that little dip, every time Woodley does that little dip before his right hand, Colby's going to shoot for a takedown. And I think he's going to get it. And eventually, when Woodley's staring up at the clock, wondering how many minutes are left in the round, with his soul leaving his body, as he likes to say, Covington's not going to let him survive to a decision. I really don't believe that. If Covington has Woodley in a situation where Woodley is gassed and tired and Colby's breaking him, Colby's going to go for the finish. Just out of ego. Just out of ego, I think Covington's going to go for a finish against Tyron Woodley. I really do. Great matchup. Woodley's got not too much of a reach advantage. That's the crazy thing. Woodley is a guy in the division who has had a longer reach advantage than a lot of people. This is a 2-inch reach advantage. Okay? I know Woodley's a shorter guy in the division, but Colby is a big boy. Okay? He's 6 foot tall, I believe, in that division. Google's saying right now he's 5'9", but Google says that Rosenstruik's 6'4", so we're not going to listen to anything Google fucking says. Woodley's going to lose, man. I just don't see him beating Colby Covington. Covington gets better every single time. I watched the Lawler fight again. Then I watched the Usman one. Covington is like twice as good at striking in the Usman fight than he was against Robbie Lawler. And Robbie Lawler wasn't even throwing back. And Covington still managed to look better against Usman than he did against Lawler. It's crazy. I think Covington's going to beat him, man. And I'm not one of these guys that's going to pick it. Oh, I don't like Colby, so I'll pick this guy. I don't mind Colby. He does his thing. He makes things more interesting in the UFC. I think he's going to go out there, melt Woodley for about 3 rounds and then eventually get himself a TKO or a rear naked choke. And the reason why I say TKO and not KO is because I don't think it's going to be from damage. I think it's just going to be from Woodley not changing position and Colby just keeping on throwing punches at him. Eventually the referee's going to have to step in. Colby Covington gets the job done against Tyron Woodley. 3rd or 4th round finish. You pick it. I don't know what's going to happen. Woodley could go out there and land a big bomb. Very aware that that could be happening. I'm running out of air. I think I just swallowed a fly. I don't know what just happened to my throat. Maybe I've been cursed. I don't know what just happened to me. Maybe it was... Honestly, that's weird. I just almost died after saying that I think Colby wins. In my final big statement, saying that Colby wins, I almost just died. You take that as your wish. That could be the MMA gods infiltrating my can of Pepsi with something. I have no idea. But I think that Covington's going to melt this snowflake bitch. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. And if he does win this one, Colby Covington's going to be looking at the winner of Masvidal versus Diaz 2. Which, let's just say Covington's going to be looking at Masvidal next. I like Nate Diaz, but you know. Covington versus Masvidal can happen for a title shot. That could happen. Covington versus Usman, if Usman beats Gilbert Burns. It's kind of harder to sell an Usman versus Masvidal rematch than it is to sell an Usman versus Covington rematch. Masvidal got dominated every single round. I know he took it on a week's notice, but still, he got dominated every single round. Barely won the first round, in my opinion. I thought he maybe could have edged the first round, but some people say Usman still won the first round. Covington went out there and was beating Usman until the very last round, in my opinion. Some people's opinion, it was 2-2. I thought Covington was winning 3-1. Outstruck him in rounds 1, 2, and 4. Rocked him in rounds 1, 2, and 4. Won round 4 with a broken jaw, or a fractured jaw, or a slightly displaced jaw. It wasn't a fully broken jaw, but it was something was up with his jaw, and he still fought for it to win a 4th round. I just don't think Woodley beats him. I think Colby's just going to have him second guessing, and Woodley is going to do this every single time he fights. They're going to touch gloves. Woodley's going to be mean mugging. The fight's going to start, and Woodley's going to walk backwards and put his back against the cage, and Colby's going to march forwards, probably run across the octagon, and just get in Woodley's face and start going for takedowns and start unloading with volume. I don't see it going well for Woodley, guys. I really don't. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Click that button there. Colby Covington by 3rd or 4th round TKO finish. Or submission. Rear naked. You make the choice. Goodbye.